moved the camera and taken pan shots. I've never moved the camera. So how can it be said that my film is out of the Pasolini school?
Pasolini ha doprato Carello, io non ho mai adoprato Carello. Pasolini ha doprato zoom, io non ho mai adoprato zoom. Pasolini ha mosso la macchina, faceva panoramiche, io non ho fatto mai panoramiche. Come si fa a dire film mia di scuola? Questo quindi era già preparato.
Pasolini met Sergio Citti in 1950. Sergio helped him enormously in all his novels. He was like a living dictionary. Pasolini jotted down notes at home. Then he would go over and see Sergio and get him to check the jokes and the local slang of the Roman characters, in which he was very proficient.
I met Pasolini 15, 16 years ago. We were just kids. We were bathing in a dirty river. He came to talk, write down notes, and in an instant we were friends. I became involved in his films as an actor.
Franco Citti, the brother of Pasolini's oldest friend in Rome, Sergio Citti. He'd known him ever since he was a small boy. He was perfect for Accartoni.
He told me he was going to make a film. The film was Accartoni. I always wanted to go into films ever since I was a young boy. But I had no idea what filmmaking was all about. I finally realized when I had finished my first film, Accartoni, and when it was shown at the Venice Film Festival. I found it very moving. I started to cry.
Mi sono pure commosso, mi sono messo a piangere.
Oedipus Rex was a very difficult film. It was the first film I'd made in costume. It was very exacting, quite different from the other films I'd made before.
Cosa vuole? Sì, una crisi religiosa molto ridicola. A 14 anni ero molto credente ancora. A un certo punto, di punto in bianco.
I've never been religious unless you can count a very ridiculous religious crisis at 14 years of age. I was still very innocent. Then from one day to the next, I didn't believe anymore. I was born Catholic by mere chance because I was born in Italy. But I was never particularly Catholic, and I came to my criticism of the church as every Italian intellectual has. I had a very agnostic upbringing, and this led me to Marxism, so therefore I arrived at it in the most obvious and natural way. The church in Italy has always been an instrument of power, but I don't think its ideological power, as opposed to its practical power, has any influence over the Italian peasant. The Italian's not religious. I don't want to say pagan because that would be generic, but he is pre-Catholic in as much as he has remained in the state in which Catholicism found him, above all in the South. Catholicism is the superficial crust over the Italian people, and I believe that it'll only take a strong confrontation to destroy these ideals. I think that the gospel is one of the many books of religious propaganda that have been written. There will come a time when the gospel will be linguistically incomprehensible to humanity. The gospel is tied to time and its historic place. The church can only survive if it continues to change and put into continual crisis its own institutionality. I'm now preparing a film on St. Paul. In the film, we bring into question not the validity of the church, but its mere mode of existence.
La Chiesa può sopravvivere soltanto se decodificandosi continuamente, mettendo continuamente...
The church will probably be able to continue for centuries to come if it creates an ecclesiastical assembly that continually negates and recreates itself. My criticism is against the church as a power as it is today. I said that when I was a boy I believed, I prayed, but it wasn't anything very serious. I think there are some facets in my character that have something of a mystifying quality. I'd say that this is part of the trauma that dominates my existence. Nature doesn't seem natural to me. It's a sort of act between me and the naturalness of nature. Philosophically, nothing I have ever done has been more fitted to me than the gospel according to St. Matthew, because of my tendency always to see something sacred and mythical and of epic quality in everything, even the most humdrum, simple, and banal objects and events.
Pier Paolo Pasolini has had a major impact both on politics and the church in Italy. In making the gospel according to St. Matthew, he was directly involved with Pope John the 23rd Many people have accused Pier Paolo Pasolini of being a devout member of the Communist Party. The fact is, the relationship between the Communist Party of Italy and a cultural personality such as Pasolini or Visconti, for instance, is one of great flexibility on both sides. Thus, Pasolini writes both for the party journals and at the same time attacks the party in non-party publications.
I'm not inscribed in the Communist Party. During the Czech crisis in 1968, I was decidedly against the Russian position with all my soul. Apart from anything else, my condemnation of Russian communism dates back to 1957. The Communist Party of Italy, in some certain consensus, contributes towards a type of restoration, a new type of restoration, which is tending towards the left. I dissent and am with the movement to the left of the Communist Party. I believe that the student movements bring a really revolutionary exigency. All the positions that are within the Communist Party of Italy are positions of an extreme purity in relation to the communist orthodoxy.
Pasolini's cinema is deeply embedded in Italian culture, which is full of contradictory traits, like Catholicism and Marxism, the two commanding ideologies which dominate Italian intellectual life, both of which have left their stamp on Pasolini. However, Pasolini's Marxism is far from being a unifying system. In his thought, it is but one of many conflicting strands, now surfacing, now submerging. There is, though, one constant, one invariant: Pasolini's uncritical attachment to the peasantry, an ideal of Marxism and childhood romanticism.
The working class, as past events have shown, both in France and Italy, have taken in hand all the possibilities of revolution. In the United States, the element referred to as the prime mover of revolution would be the dissident bourgeoisie. The world of the Italian peasant pertains in some ideological way to the third world. Meanwhile, the working class belongs to the modern world. It belongs to our time and our history. Here in Italy, the policemen, for the most part, are poor boys who come from very poor families in the South. I hope that the union confrontations and the student movement will bring us to new advances in the people's movement and in the revolutionary movement. The idea of Marxism being rational is true when it's a science, but in the moment when Marxism is action or revolution, it ceases to be rational. The moment a Marxist goes into action, purely pragmatical elements or purely revolutionary sentiments exist that contain something of a religious or mystical nature.
Pasolini has a great ability and sensitivity towards language and linguistics. And in fact, some of his most beautiful poetry is in Friulan dialect, because he comes from the Friuli.
Sera imbarlumida, dal fossala creslaga, una femmina plena cammina pel ciamp. Io ti ricordi, Narcis, ti vevis il color della sera, quando i ciampani s'assunin di muerto.